Hey team, and in this video we are going to cover the squat and the reason why you should leave a traditional squat when you are entering into your 40s. So, to start off with, first of all, squats are, yes, an excellent thing for you to be able to do. When we start to think about the squats in a traditional sense, when we look at a feet shoulder width apart and then bending the knees, keeping the back straight and then squatting down into that position with as much weight as possible, that's when we start to kind of then run into issues as we go further on down the line. So the reason being why it is a bad thing for you to be focusing on at this point in time when you're in your 40s is simply because at this stage of your life, your muscles will become a lot tighter, your joints will become a lot tighter, and obviously so will the tendons and connective tissue. So you're at a mechanical disadvantage straight away, and then by doing traditional squats with heavy weight as well at the same time, then it causes problems over a period of time. So what we want to look to do is to still continue to squat, but just do it in different ways. So if we use my example, first of all, me now being 47, if I go into a traditional squat pattern there, first of all, my ankle joints are very tight. So as I squat in that neutral position, as you can see there, my ankles have to come up in order for me to be able to get into that position there. If I now have a weight on my back and I keep my ankles firm, I will now have to push my backside out and lean forward to get lower into that squat position there. Problem with that is, once I've then got heavy weight on my shoulders and I'm in this position here, then my lower back is now compromised, okay? Good chance I can blow out a disc. So it's not what we want to do. The other aspect to it as well with regards to a traditional kind of heavy squat is also thinking about our natural mechanics. So if we start to think about the length of the legs and the length of the torso, if you have long legs and a short torso like I do, you're going to have a hard time squatting anyway, okay? Because what will happen is that because those femurs are long, you will have to push your hips further back and lean forward in order to be able to get lower in that squat position. However, if you have shorter legs and you have a long torso, then you are at a mechanical advantage when it comes to then squatting. So the thing to think about is this, is instead of looking at trying to fit into the exercise, make the exercise fit into you. So when we start to now think about squats, let's use the squats for our advantage as opposed to a disadvantage, okay? So here's what I mean by that. In a squat pattern, we can actually go into different foot positions. So we can change foot positions and we can change angles. And we want to use those different angles to give us the best advantage for when we are squatting. So here's an idea now in terms of what you can do to be more beneficial with regards to squatting for your mechanics. So first of all, you can look at going wider with your feet. You can also look at turning your toes out, which will then help you get into an easier position to be able to squat down and then come back up again. This will always obviously have a different impact on where the tissue is hit in and around the legs and obviously around the hips. So doing that will obviously give us different tension in different areas, okay? But that will allow us to get into the actual squat there. The thing to start thinking about really is more about what we're using the squat for. And so if you want to develop the legs, but also we want to be getting fitter, leaner, stronger, we want to be able to move better physically, then we want to have a multiple of different ways to be able to squat, so it gives us more of an advantage to be able to move better. So as well as putting our feet into that position, if that helps us go down, if we have tension in the ankles, then we can also place our foot forward in that position there, and then we can squat down in that position like so. So we can squat down from there to there. Okay, so you can see from that side, we can go down that way and up that way. Okay, obviously now this starts to change the dynamic of the squat. All of the weight is going to go onto the front leg. Back here is going to come down to allow us to get down to that position, come back up again. Okay, and obviously then we can change the legs over, go same again into that position. So we don't have to do the traditional feet shoulder width apart, putting on as much weight as possible onto the shoulders and then squatting down, okay? We can now change things around to suit our mechanics and to suit any kind of dysfunction that we've got if muscles are tight. But also, as we are starting to move towards our later years, we want to have the ability to be able to move the legs dynamically. So if we need to go down to the ground, it's not a problem getting up. When you sit down or when you pick things up from the ground in day-to-day living, You will not put your feet shoulder width apart and do this to be able to sit down. It just won't happen, right? So what you will naturally kind of do is if you're going to pick something up off the ground, you'll do more this, okay? Or if your knees are in bad shape, then you're going to start doing this to pick things up from the ground, okay? Yeah, so the ideal is really, when we're picking things up, is just to be able to use the legs themselves without any kind of problems whatsoever. So if you move yourself into a position of a squat, where you are in the left leg forward, weight behind you there, and coming back up again. And so now in that position, weights on the front leg, on the left leg, change over, and go into that position there. It then gives us more of a mechanical advantage when we are doing our movements in day-to-day life, okay, as well as in sport. So if you want to do things such as walking, running, hiking, playing any kind of sports, then start using the squat exercise to be able to help that as opposed to hinder it, okay? So a quick example of what you could do in terms of changing that squat, I'll just show you right now. So with the squat position now, because it's going to be more dynamic, obviously you're going to use less weight, okay? But this is how we can actually do it. So what you might want to do is, instead of traditional, is say, okay, I'm going to put my feet in my best possible position, so I have the best mechanical advantage, and we're going to squat down like so. And let's just say again, we're going to go now for say for 10, and then once we hit the 10, 8, there's 9, and there's 10 from there. Once we've hit the 10, legs start getting warm, maybe start to burn, depending obviously how much weight you're putting on. We're then going to move to the left leg forward, and then we're in for 10. Okay, like so. Once we hit 10, we change over. Same on the other leg, down for 10, like so. Then we might want to do the same again. This time, turn the angle is different. You might want to put the feet out, okay, turn the feet out that way, or turning the feet in that way, which will then obviously have a different impact on the hips. So what you're doing really is playing around with the squat to suit you better, okay, yeah? So we can do these different positions, we can do those different positions, we can do different positions here with the feet in, feet out, we can do closer, we can do neutral, we can do wide, we can do left leg forward, we can do right leg forward like so. Okay, so these are just different positions in which you can basically play around with a squat, which is going to have a good mechanical advantage for you in day-to-day moving. Okay, so try and practice that and see how you get on. With regards to weight, now obviously you're not going to be able to load this up like you would a traditional squat, okay? And so some people might say, well, you're not going to build your legs, all right? Well, that's all down to intensity, okay? So if you want to build our legs as well as move better mechanically, then just increase the intensity. So maybe you slow the repetitions down, okay? Maybe you increase the repetitions as well. So do 3 sets of, say, 15 repetitions on each of those different positions there. Then when you're doing that as well, just slow the tempo down so the speed's a lot slower. By doing 1 set of that, you tell me now if that's intense or not on the legs, okay? I think you'll find it will be, okay? So what you're looking for to be able to stimulate the growth is just to purely increase the intensity, okay then team? So have a go with that, play around with squats. Remember, make squats and the exercises fit around you, not you fit in towards the exercise, okay? That's all about getting the most out of your body when it comes to training and being able to be functional, fit, lean, healthy, and strong for the rest of your days. All right, team, so give it a go. Hope that helps. And if you have any problems, then just give us a shout. See you in the next video.